The Nike Zoom Fly 6. We reached 100 plus miles in the shoe. Is this thing a massive improvement in the everyday racer market, or is this a flop and it's just hopeless? Let's break it down and talk about it. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of updates related to my sub 3-hour marathon project, as this is probably going to be the year where it really happens. I totally believe it this time. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs of the shoe, somewhere where you can see them. And we'll just kick off right away with what the exteriors of the shoes look like. So mind the dust and salt and other snowy features of the shoe. I was running in them today. I put in about 7.5, 7.25 miles of just some tempo-ish pace in the mix of elements out here in the Midwest. And yeah, overall, you can probably see that the wear is not super bad across the shoe. I guess we'll start with our right foot in our areas of interest, as you can see. Again, we're looking for how the lugs originally look. So if you look at the bottom middle area of the shoe, they have that little dot in the middle of the lug. That would just indicate that the shoe, that particular lug is in good condition. If we look at the exterior of the shoe, those dots are mostly gone, but we also see those lugs are beginning to wear on the exterior side of the shoe and sort of in this toe box area, slightly. Not in a bad way, but yeah, it's mostly just wear from the ground, not so much from an abrasive sort of element like salt on the shoe, even though it's visible and it's present on the shoe as I'm looking at it. It's not as a result of that sort of abrasion that you would get from like a trail running or a loose gravel type of run, but it's more that polishing that's occurring from just outdoor elements, from treadmill workouts where it's polishing out those lugs. But yeah, in this case, it's still holding on well. It hasn't broken this rubber structuring. It hasn't broken into the foam of the shoe whatsoever. So good things across the board at this time, 100 miles deep. Good structural integrity, I guess you can say that, or I've just become a much weaker runner, which I don't know is the case. Could be made a case that I'm just not fast enough. I'm not breaking these shoes hard enough, right? Is that what's going on? Maybe. Maybe we gotta start running 4 flat in these shoes every time I have tempo runs, right? A 4 flat minute per mile tempo run. And then what do we got on the left foot? Same kind of deal. Exterior side of the shoe is beginning to wear out the lugs a little bit. We do have what looks like some foam crinkling, not necessarily fatigue at this time, just because there's other factors to consider with the fatigue. Number one is that there's a carbon plate, so there is a structural reinforcement as a result of that. But 2, this is only the EVA foam side of the shoe. That's the foam that's designed to take sort of this brunt beat down as it's the closest to the ground, separated with the carbon plate. And then the Zoom X is designed to give you that sort of rebound effect, extra springiness that you would feel otherwise in the shoe. So yeah, I think we'll just leave it at that in terms of what we see. I think maybe one of the questions we may have is like, what's this dirt on the side here? There's one of 2 things it could be. Number one, this could be as a result of treadmill dust or treadmill residue, and that's maybe what we're looking at here. Or 2, maybe when I was running outside and we were running on any sort of black tarmac that may have been laid down within the last 6 months, mixed with snow, ice, and things like that. This could be just as a result of that. I think it's probably the earlier piece here that might be just treadmill residue, because it looks smooth, looks polished, doesn't look like it's abrasive in any sort of way. So it just it's dirt. It's not really anything that I'm immediately concerned with. It's just as a result of, yeah, treadmill workouts and things like that. So let's talk performance. That's, I think, what people care about the most here, because it's such a toss-up, right? I'm reading the comments on the shoes, you know, and your thoughts and your feedback on them. And I know you guys got some questions. We'll talk about them here as well, if I haven't addressed them already. And yeah, the question still stands. Like, the shoe is it stiff? Does it break a little bit after 100 miles or 50 miles? Like, where's the point where the smooth sailing starts occurring in this shoe, right? And I don't know if I've reached that point yet, or I've already passed it, and it's just I'm so used to the ride of the shoe that I don't know that I'm experiencing quote-unquote comfort, right? So what I mean by that is that in my particular case, for example, the ride of the shoe was dependent on what kind of socks I was wearing. Crazy, right? But bear with me on this one. I have a pair of socks that kind of run tight and they constrict my foot a little bit. So when I'm running in those socks in the shoe, I get a lot of achiness in my arch because the foot is getting compressed so much. And I blame it on the shoe because it's so stiff that I can't like bend my foot in those socks and I can't bend it in this shoe. Okay, fine, right. Now, if I use my regular everyday socks for walking around my house, running in shoes, running outside, the shoe still feels quite stiff, and sometimes I'll constrict myself with the shoelaces when I tie it down in this like central area right here of the shoe. But it still has speed in it, right? It just doesn't have the flex, nor does it have the comfort that you would have otherwise gotten in like the Vaporfly Next% 2s, maybe the 3s, the Alpha Fly 3, right? Like, the thing is still quite a stiff piece, but I think it's just meant to be a little bit stiffer just as a result of needing more push in your daily workout to get a greater rebound, which otherwise will translate to a more flexible, more enjoyable run in something like an Alpha Fly 3, right? Like, you guys have probably heard this probably ad nauseum from different running, I was going to say running artists, but like marathon runners who excel at this art form, and they usually give the advice of when you do like something like a long run or your hardest workouts, like don't do it in the shoe you're going to do it in race day necessarily. Do it in the shoe that makes it the most difficult to get that workout done. That way, when you get to the race, there are no surprises, or you've actually reduced the number of handicaps you've put on yourself because you have a shoe that responds better to just simply being that race day product, right? So, in the example of the Zoom Fly 6, how would we tie this in, right? The shoe's a little bit stiffer, it runs a little bit tougher. The more you push into the shoe, the more you get out of it. Basically, it's handicapped against you in most of your speed and everyday workouts, and probably even for your race day sort of workouts, compared to something like the Alpha Fly 3, the Vaporfly Next% 2, 3, etc. Intentionally, right? The shoe is designed, I think, yes, to be a training companion for your race day product, but it's meant to be a little bit more difficult to work with intentionally. So when you get into something like the Alpha Fly 3 on your half marathon, 10K, full marathon race, the shoe will be a little bit more comfortable. And if it isn't as comfortable as it's supposed to be, if it feels more like the Zoom Fly 6, you're going to be ready for it, right? The one thing you're not going to be thinking about on race day is, how do I feel in my shoes? Because you've already experienced something a little bit more stiff, a little bit more worse, if you catch my drift. Because you could have an extremely comfortable daily trainer, like let's say they made the Zoom Fly 6 a little bit more comfortable, and they added materials and changed certain, parameters within the shoe to make it more comfortable and faster, but the price point goes up because of material costs, and all of a sudden you're just buying, another Alpha Fly 3. Is that a possibility? I don't know. This is just something I think about when it comes to something like the Zoom Fly 6, right? Where you have to exert a little bit more effort to get more speed out of it, but that same level of exertion in my race day shoe will feel less effort, but have sort of the same result. I don't know if I'm trying to make like a case for why you should buy the shoe as a means of suffering in it, or if it's just I understand that at its price point, it does its best to match, your race day shoe like the Alpha Fly 3 and whatnot. But point stands that it's still a really good speed shoe. Just understand it's not going to be the best speed shoe you could buy, right? I hope I'm not going into a huge tangent or running around in circles here, and I hope you understand my point. Give me like a thumbs up in the comment sections if you do. But yeah, anyways, let's answer some of the questions I had. Some of them were, of course, asking like if you can use this for a marathon or a half marathon. And I think the answer is, realistically, again, it depends. I think, yes, it is built for those distances, and you could probably have a good time in this shoe if you practice in it, If you're comfortable with it, if it's the only option you have, great. Then, you know, you should be okay with this at those distances for its price point. Just don't expect any miracles or any PRs, depending on your pre-existing times and conditions and whether this is your first exposure to carbon plate shoes, right? And the second question, of course, I think that followed up with that was if you can use it for speed workouts. And I stress this all the time. Yes, I think this is supposed to be your speed training shoe, so you save mileage and structural integrity on your Alpha Flies, your Vaporfly Next Percents. Have this shoe take the brunt of the beatdown. Don't exclude those shoes entirely from your workout. Make sure you're still comfortable in them. Make sure that they're still functioning properly, especially the Alpha Fly 3s where with the Air Zoom pods, if you don't pop them, make sure like they're in tip-top condition. So you got to run them every so often, make sure they're good. And yeah, the point is you want to do the bulk of that work in like this type of shoe. Granted, if you want to build some confidence in the race day shoe, use the race day shoe. But if you want to do speed workouts with this shoe, you know, 100 plus miles deep into the shoe, it still looks great to me. I think you can run it at least to 250, 300 miles. Granted, the fly plate is going to be something interesting to follow to see if the structural integrity of the plate will remain or if it will crack at any points or will experience some kind of fatigue. So those are just some things to think about as we get there. But yeah, I think we'll leave it here with the Zoom Fly 6 overall, 100 plus miles. It's nothing completely new. I think the shoe is still running a little stiff intentionally. It's not supposed to be as comfortable as the Vaporfly Next Percent 2s or 3s or the Alpha Fly. Not supposed to be a replacement. It's just supposed to be the shoe that if you can endure this, you can dodge a ball, right? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. That's kind of the idea here overall. Is it the right principle with a daily trainer or a speed trainer? Who knows? It's in the eye of the beholder. If you want like a comfortable daily trainer, I don't think you lean for a carbon plate shoe. Just my thoughts, right? Some people like running in the carbon plate shoes because they just like experiencing a fast workout all the time. Some people enjoy the slower mileage in a non-carbon plate shoe, but just enjoy having the comfort and just time on feet. I understand that like 5 things can be true at once, right? And I don't think there's a wrong approach to it depending on, or they're contingent on what your goals are for your race day, right? You know, running for 4 hours straight at 10-minute per mile pace might not get you a Boston qualifier, but it will show you have some damn good endurance, right? That's just kind of the point I'm getting across here. So yeah, I think we'll leave it at that though. So if you have any agreements, disagreements, suggestions, comments, assessment, thoughts with the Zoom Fly 6, let me know in the comments below. But I think we'll leave it at that. 100 plus miles deep. We're getting close to 150 plus as I'm ramping up my own mileage and adding more speed workouts in this shoe and just running it through the gauntlet of, you know, trying to get myself into a 122, 123 half marathon pace, if not a little bit faster than that. So lots of cool things to come on that end. But I think we'll leave it at this. So thanks again for watching. See you guys in the next one.